Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. We have a panel today on sustainability and seeking funding options. We have here a lot of representatives from the public sector, and hopefully soon one private sector investor will join us. But until then, I'll introduce our guests. So we have Christine Semba from Piranha and Womex, World Music Expo. We have Kreshnik Loka, who is the head of the Albanian branch office for RICO, and we also have Fjordi Bisha, the project manager for the Western Balkans Fund, and Julia Mihaifi, who worked with me on most, actually, and she's now a freelance consultant for European projects. So I'm Dana McKelvey, and I'm a researcher at Central European University, and I worked with Yuli on most, specifically in the urban projects pillar. So I was able to see a lot of projects come alive and see how the sustainability played out there, also here in Tirana with Altin's project, actually. So if we have time, we'll speak a bit about that later. So we'll start with Christine. You have a lot of experience organizing a big expo. Does the priority for applications change from year to year? And is there a certain quota for projects from the Balkans?
Hello. Yeah. Hello. Very, very happy to be in Albania. Very excited. And thank you for the invitation and thank you, Altin. First, can you put the pictures, please? I got some pictures. It's just to get a little bit of a feeling because I will talk more specifically about Womex and then also about the MOST project. So the last pictures are more about the MOST project. So regarding Womex, maybe also few information. It is a music expo and conference which is traveling through Europe. So it takes place every year, end of October, in a different European country. It was last year in the UK. This year we're going to be in Finland. 2 years ago we were in Spain. And definitely, unfortunately, the Eastern Europe and Southeastern part of Europe is from the European perspective, the part for us to integrate the most, which is still missing, a little bit the missing link. I forgot to say that we have over 100 countries coming together to Womex every year, being artists, but representative organizations, festivals, management, records, journalists, etc. And definitely it's missing, or it's starting. And that's why also I'm here, because I found it very exciting to make more links, because we know that Balkan is a region which is very rich in music and in traditions and in renewing traditions. But the problem is, how to get more connected. So we don't have quota. I explain also a little bit maybe how a showcase works, because it is pretty much every networking event, B2B event, which work this way. Usually there is a call for proposals, so artists have to apply, and then there is a selection process. For Womex, we have a completely independent jury. We don't have a vote. We change the jury every year. To give you a little bit of example, we receive 1,400, 1,500 proposals from all over the world for around 40, 45 selected artists, also representing all world. We want artists from every continent, also representing some maybe traditional music styles, but also some electronic music styles, some bigger bands for big festivals or smaller artists. So we need to cover everything in 45 artists, more or less. We don't have quota. But we have seen Womex being 2 times a little bit closer to the Balkans, 2012 in Thessaloniki and 15 in Budapest. And every time these was years where we had more proposals from the region and also more artists selected. The last point I would like to say, it's about people think, when they think about an expo, a music conference, they think immediately about showcase. And actually this is just one tiny, not tiny, but one part of the way of using a showcase event. First, I think it's important to network, to understand, to make partnerships, even before thinking of showcases, because showcases are a big investment. Usually we have to finance everything, which makes, again, the world less equal. Some countries, especially in the western of Europe, have music export offices. We see now more and more coming in Bulgaria, in Croatia. We are starting to see organization helping artists, supporting, so that's good. But still, there is here a way which is not equal. And being a big investment, being a showcase, also in terms of work, in terms of energy, and also in terms of credibility, it is also interesting to consider first coming as a professional to check how are things, to come as a delegation before thinking of showcases, knowing the ground, knowing how things work.
Okay, great, thank you. And I understand that you were also involved with MOST. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience there?
Yes, that was a fantastic project, European project. Ta-da. You should check the website, Most Music. Unfortunately, the project is finished and it started in April 2020. So imagine we were supposed to have lots of exchange of artists in festivals, etc. So we had 1.5 years working online. And that was absolutely great because it was helping in doing the job that a music export office would do. So we had different pillars, to make sure I don't forget. So we had the Balkan Music Export pillar, which was more helping artists to present themselves in different parts of Europe. We had the festival and club exchange pillar, which was also very interesting to see. We have here lots of events, lots of festivals. I discovered many yesterday on the panels I was even not aware of, which is great. So it was also to make connections between festivals from the region of Balkan and from other regions of Europe, to exchange expertise, to exchange good practices, also exchange artists. We had another pillar, it was where I was more involved, it was a management training. We had every year a call, and we were selecting around 20 young managers or people who wanted to become manager from the whole region, and that was also creating very good links because we were bringing them all together and have some trainings. And it was also urban project pillar, which was more on bigger scale project, but I think you can tell more about that. And regarding MOSTs, one thing I want to say, unfortunately, Albania was supposed to be, with a partner, part of the project, and the pandemic, killed everything because this partner was supposed to start an event, and of course he couldn't start. So that was unfortunate that Albania was not as involved as planned. That's why I am even more happy to be here. But there are some legacy, like for example, we met Altin, we met with Altin, thank Most. We met also thank Most, and the project is finished, but the connections continue, and that's the most important. We created links, we created trust, and wish to work together, and that's, of course, most important.
Thank you. And you already mentioned this a little bit, but is there anything else that you want to add about how performing in an expo can help the sustainability of a band, if anyone in the audience might be interested?
Well, that's the plan. If you perform a showcase, the plan is to get more sustainability, not to establish more your career in certain regions, usually on an international, regional level. But there are many ways of doing that. Again, it's not just selling shows. That's one part, of course, and when you are in showcase, you have music professionals seeing you, being festivals, being promoters, being concert hall, and being booking agencies, which are a very important part in many countries in Europe. Without booking agencies, very difficult to start touring. So of course, all of these partnerships you start making are the most important to create a sustainability. But there are also many other ways, like, for example, media. It can really help promotion on international level, or also not forgetting about partnership again and exchanges. Because when you go to an expo just thinking in selling, you have a different position if when you say, okay, I have something to sell, but I can offer something also to you in exchange. And my feeling is this region is very rich also in events, in many opportunities that many artists or many professionals in the rest of Europe or in the rest of the world are not aware of. So that's interesting also to say, hey, I have something to offer. I mean, I would like, of course, to tour or whatever in your region, but I can also, you know, facilitate the enter points or give some advices for my region, and I think it's extremely valuable. So that would it for now. If you have questions afterwards, welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you.
And now we have some questions for Kreshnik. So we'll turn our attention towards Albania and Tirana. Kreshnik, can you tell us a bit about how RICO supports youth in Albania?
Thank you very much for the question, Dana, and thank you to all the courageous participants who joined us in the panel. Thank you very much to Muse-X for this opportunity, because I think that we are connecting not only Tirana but the Balkans and the world, and it is an important connection. RICO, or the Regional Youth Cooperation Office, works in the Western Balkans, connecting 6 societies, and as much as we empower the region, it's also very important to have the region seeing towards the world. So I think that this bridge we have today is very important. RICO is working directly with young people from 14 to 30 years old, and at a specific program that we have, we work until 35 years old, which is connected to the program on entrepreneurship. Our main goal is to reach a better coordination, a better cooperation within the Western Balkans, to try to deal with the inheritance of a difficult past in the region, which should not be overlooked, but it should be looked in the eyes, and we should find a way for the young people, but also the older generations, to come to peace with what had happened before in the Balkans. It's a difficult topic, but it's a very necessary topic that can only be tackled through young people. And how we do this, how we try to reach this regional cooperation, regional youth cooperation, is through mobility programs. So what we do is we try to make young people meet together in safe spaces from communities that they will never meet before, and on one hand discuss about important topics, but also find something that connects them. And one of them can be culture. We do that through social entrepreneurship. We do that through exchanges of high schools. We do that by supporting civil society organizations to do regional projects, because everything that we support, it has to be at least 2 different communities from the Western Balkans to different countries. So this is, for us, very important, that we only support initiatives which come as a partnership in the region. When it comes to culture, we are first of all supporting them through our regular open calls we have for civil society organizations. And so far we had some amazing projects. Maybe I can mention a few of them. One of them being called No Border Orchestra, which is a symphony orchestra made of 18 instruments, which has traveled the Western Balkans. And they also did a very nice show in Berghain, in Berlin, which was for the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And for them, it was the connection between the fall of the barriers between classical music and clubbing culture. And they made a rearrangement of classical tunes in a more modern way, and it was quite a big success. Also visually, the way how they presented themselves was quite unique. We had jazz festival between Sarajevo, Niš, and Tirana, and the band itself was made of artists from these 3 cities who traveled the Balkans and promoting jazz music. Now And these kind of projects we are still supporting. So if there is an NGO who has a regional idea, a regional project connected to young people and culture, they are more than welcome to apply. We actually just closed one of the calls. Another one is going to be open very soon. But as I said, we also have a separate fund only for the culture, which is called the Western Balkan Youth Cultural Fund. This is the first fund that we support also individuals, which for us is very important. For that, we make sure, or we want our applicants to have at least at some point involve at least 10 young people in their creative process or in their showcase of the final product. And we also support NGOs who have a cultural idea, and for that they need to have at least one collaborator out of their home country in order to always give the chance to at least 20 young people to exchange together for that cultural idea. What makes a difference from our cultural fund to other maybe donors is that we want an intersection, or we want to see an intersection between culture and peace building. We want to see how they can use culture to actually tackle a social cause which is important to young people. For example, yesterday I was at an opening of an exhibition which was done by an Albanian artist who did the topic was about connecting Roma and non-Roma community through inclusivity, and it was they did a 12 canvas showcase of Roma culture in agriculture through comics. So it was based on the story of the grandfather of the artist and how he nurtured him with a love for the land, and he did this in a very modern way through comics. So and they are also doing this exhibition in Prizren, in Kosovo, where is the oldest Roma library in the Balkans, where they're going to have the chance to showcase as well. So this is what, for Raiko, it makes the project special, and what we would like to see. We'd like to see young people engage in a cultural idea which actually brings the region closer together, and this is also one of the powers of culture.
Great. So if someone were to write an application, that's what you would prioritize, having a social element?
I would say it's a requirement.
A requirement, okay.
I would say it's a requirement. For us, it's very, because there are many funds, sometimes many, sometimes few for culture, but for us, for our mission, it's very important that they have this social cause which is connected to diversity, to inclusivity, to peacekeeping in the West, peace building more in the Western Balkans, how to tackle some tensions that happened in the past in a cultural way that makes it sometimes even more easy to digest, or at least makes it a platform to open a discussion.
Okay, great. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Krashnik. Okay, and now Fjordi. It seems like the Western Balkans Fund has supported projects in the past that that focus on culture and music. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of those projects?
Yep, sure. Well, I'll just start with shortly a couple of sentences about the Western Balkans Fund. We are an organization created by the Ministries of Foreign Affairs of WB6, meaning Albania, North Macedonia, Kosovo, Serbia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Montenegro. And we have our core funding coming from the governments of the WB6, but as well other donors like the European Union, the Swiss government, Japanese government, and so on and so forth. Since our creation, one of the main areas of intervention that we call, it's cultural cooperation. So since the very first open call that the Western Balkans did, we received and we supported projects dealing with culture. I would mention a couple of them, like, for example, Raiko supported. We have as well an orchestra built from one of our funds, which is called Camerata Balkanica, and it has young instrumentists from all WB6 playing in all WB6, and even in Brussels. We have supported the very famous festival in the Balkans, Mirdita Doberdan, which we have supported DokuFest, we have supported this theater. So we have supported cultural projects, I would say, coming from Banja Luka up north to Korča in the south, coming from Kotor from the west until Belgrade and Pristina in the east. So we have covered a lot of range of these cultural projects. It is our intention as well to continue, because this is one of the main values that we have in the Western Balkans Fund, and there is a little bit of an upscale, so we don't necessarily just focus only to youth. So for us it's a broader aspect, but with very similar similar intentions to RICO. So we do see our projects coming in from at least 3 of the countries of the WB6 in order to have a successful project for us. And at the same time, we need that social element to have that. We call it people-to-people links. So each project needs to bring people together. Yeah.
Okay, great. And we know that one call just closed.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a bit more about future opportunities for the audience?
Sure. Well, we have different way of supporting, not just through the open call for proposals. We have the classical way of an open call for proposal, and then we have the MOVE grants, what we call it's mobility grants in WB6, which individuals, either professors, artists, cultural workers, so on and so forth, they can travel within WB6, supported by us for research, participation in artistic venues, or they would like to have a show, an exhibition, so that is completely dedicated to individuals. At the same time, we have matching grants, which is one type of a grant which we have open all year, and we can have requests from interested parties. You should be non-for-profit organizations. If they're organizing a concert, if they're organizing such type of event, they can come to us to ask for funding. And as well, we do offer not just funding, but as well direct support to especially artists. Lately, we have done 26 so far, and we will continue again events of PCM training and access to finance training for artists in all WB6. This is a program that we have with Italian cooperation through EU funding, and we will be next as well. And I would like to say, if anyone is interested, we will be in the next couple of weeks. Please check our social media. We are very public there. We will be in Pristina and Sarajevo for access to funding for creative industry individuals or organizations, does not matter. But whoever is dealing with creative industry, they are more than welcome to join to learn a little bit more about project cycle management, or to learn a little bit more about how to get this funding that we are all presenting here. And the classical call, the very first one that is just being closed, we have a yearly call, so we are going to announce soon the winners. And that means that the next cycle, it will be almost this time next year. But I told you the MOVE grant, which is the one that goes with the individuals, that is 3 times per year. So very soon we will have now in early, spring, so it's going to be late spring, one open and another one in September. So there are a few funding opportunities and capacity building opportunities that we offer, yeah.
Okay, great. And if anyone would like to apply, can you give some advice on what makes a winning grant? Like, what do you look for when you're reviewing the grants?
A genuine from the heart project can be visible since the very beginning, and then a little bit of technicalities that you need to follow. My main advice to anyone who would like to apply for a grant is read the guidelines. That's my first main advice. As donors, we are trying to simplify as much as possible all the procedures. We're trying to elongate, not to give a 50-page of guidelines, but please read the guidelines. That's my first advice. My second advice for a successful grant for the Western Balkans Fund directly, it means that you have to have a partnership of at least 3 organizations coming from WB6. You have to fall under one area of intervention, which in this case is cultural cooperation or education or sustainable development. These are the other 2. You have to fall under financial envelope criteria that we have per grant, meaning 15,000, 30,000, depending on the type of and the cycle of the grant. And as I said, you need to focus on a genuine partnership. So the partnership is you can actually feel it while you're reading the project. If the partnership is there, it's just for the sake of fulfilling the guidelines. So you should focus on a genuine partnership, and you should focus on a genuine result with, to some extent, sustainable results and sustainable future of the project. We are talking about low to medium support of projects, meaning 15 to 30,000 euros. You cannot ask for extreme sustainability with this amount of money, but you can catch the first phase of sustainability with this amount of money. So these are the main focal points that we're looking forward in one project when we read. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Fjordi. Yes?
Can I just add something? Because I think
Sure.
while talking about the other calls, I actually missed maybe to share one important
Sure.
information. We are actually opening the third cycle of our cultural fund on 15th of April, so it's next Wednesday. And it's open for the whole region to apply for individuals and NGOs. And in September or October, it's going to be the fourth open call, again from the same fund. So it's going to be a second opportunity. And on the 17th of April, we are launching a training for Albanian artists or curators who are interested in doing in writing projects for culture. So they can do a 2-day full training, which is a intersection between cultural projects and project writing. So these two opportunities are coming up next week, 15th and 17th.
Okay, thank
of
you,
April.
Kreshnik.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, now Yuli. So Yuli, you were a project manager for the Most Urban Pillar. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with Most and how to make a project sustainable?
Okay, first of all, thank you for being here today. I'm thankful for being here today. I'm very happy. The urban pillar was, as Christine said, one of the 4 pillars in the Most project, and it was more related to cultural managers or people working in cultural events. And we made an open call, people could apply, and then they got the opportunity to have an online training and an offline training. And I want to highlight this part because it's very important to be part of these trainings when you're thinking about applying for a project. As also Kreshnik and Fjordi mentioned, they are good opportunities to learn how to apply for these funds. And through the training we gave tips, we gave the opportunity for the participants to work with mentors. And these mentors not only share their knowledge, but also they are important and experts in the region and in Europe also. So it was a great opportunity for participants to meet and create real connections. And as Christine was also saying, that going to music expos or showcases, it's very important not only to sell something, but to learn, to create connections, to get to know people. And showing up, it's quite important because the sustainability of a project, it also comes through knowing your partners. And as Fjordi was mentioning, a project, when you apply, you can feel if there is consistency on the partnership or not, and that can be built through time. So this, for example, Most was a very good trampoline for participants and also for facilitators and mentors to meet, to get to know each other. And then once this seed was planted, then you need to water it. And how can you water it? By showing up in different events. And for that, there are smaller funds that you can also apply that are for a smaller amount of money, but that can help you to get to these places. And based on that and creating these relationships, then you can afterwards create bigger projects like Creative Europe projects or any of the projects that you were mentioning. But for that, you have to rely on the people you work with. So talking about sustainability, I think trust, reliability, it's also very important. And going back to Most, I think Most gave visibility to the Balkans. Still a very, or I believe it's still underrepresented in the European level, but I think it was a very big step, and it gave visibility, it gave the opportunity for networking in between the Balkan countries and like with the other European countries. I could see when we were organizing the training and that they could have the opportunity to meet with other people from the Balkans, and maybe new projects were created after these meetings. And yes, and I think getting to know each other, building strong partnerships, and that it's not built from one day to the other. It's a matter of time. And if we think about it, Christine was mentioning Most started in 2020, it finished in 2023. And we are here today thanks to that seed that was created in that moment. So it's not just that it dies when a project it's finished, but other projects can born, or other collaborations can start based on that. And yes, and I think that's I think that's one of the most important things. And then there are a lot of European networks and European Forum on Music, or there is European network of cultural centers, and I recommend to follow these big European networks because they might have smaller grants that can help you as a musician, as an artist, or as an organization to apply for these other smaller funds.
Thank you, Yuli. So today we've been speaking a lot from the perspective of the public sector, but we have a kind of surprise last-minute guest here representing the private sector. We have Ravik Mima, I hope I said your name correctly. He's the CEO of the Keretsu Forum. So I guess my main question for you, Ravik, would just be what opportunities exist for maybe some of our audience members to get money from the private sector?
Thank you very much. Although last minute I figured out that was exactly the reason, so they figured out that probably they need the private side of the perspective.
Yes.
Which sometimes comes last minute, but definitely it's important. I'm very happy to be here. I mean, Luel is very soon going to be one of our members at Keretsu. So what we do at Keretsu is a cross-border angel investment network, but it's an investor network, let's say, in the Western Balkans. It's part of Keretsu Forum, which is based out of San Francisco, which is the global largest investor network. It has 60 chapters globally, and I run the Southeast Europe chapter with 9 countries. So it's Western Balkans plus Croatia, Slovenia, and Hungary. Yeah, so you said audience. I mean, is anyone in the audience who is looking for funding? Because I thought that was the question. Right, great. Thank you for saving the show. In the panel also. Right, very, very good. I lost maybe the initial discussion because my taxi driver decided to go into the block instead of the Lana River. So now he learned that you always go through Lana, never go through the block when you're late. But what I heard is my dear friends and colleagues that are funding initiatives which are very, very important, especially when it comes to arts, music, and culture, and creativity. I think it's quite important in this moment in time for Albania, and both organizations. I've had the pleasure to work with both of my friends here. They're doing an amazing job, and I think they're two of the organizations that are really putting their money when their mouth is, as long as you can do it in a public NGO-ish sort of donor organization. They're very, very good at what they're doing. And but one of the discussions that we have all the time is, yeah, I think we could delve into a little bit of a startup perspective to this. Why? Because at the end of the day, this is a startup, and to be blunt, I think that money does run out because this is the theme, but vision actually shouldn't. And what happens is that donor organizations and funding organizations, public organizations, should be the spark initially, very well, but you cannot really keep a very strong fire running with just sparks. And I think one of the reasons why also startups in the same way actually run out of money and they burn too much money in that direction is because they don't have a very clear perspective from the private investor side of things. What does it mean? I think that it's very important to match both things. So I think it should be the private side of things that gets to validate the project, and then that should act as a vetting process as well in this kind of exercises or events or any kind of similar endeavor to actually be matched, right? Because when you run out of funds, it might happen for a couple of reasons. But if the vision was correct, if the correct partnerships were there, and if the organization of the event is bringing value to everyone, definitely. I mean, if you take, a case that I know very well because I follow is Boiler Room. I mean, Boiler Room started as I think something completely spontaneous in a with not exactly any chance of becoming the event that now holds partnerships with, I don't know, Apple Music, and it's one of the most important. But because they had a very clear vision of what they were doing, I think, and they actually brought value to everyone. And partnerships in this kind of case, I suppose, are also very, very important. So. And this is where private investors get in. I mean, it's you have to put yourself in the shoes of whoever wants to invest. Why would they invest? Because they're going to want to get a return on investment on something successful. And if you're very good at, firstly, clearing out what that vision is and how does it look, then delivering on it, then of course this can and should become at the end also profitable. I mean, so there should be a return on investment on this, and this is what in general keeps the locomotive going, right, in that kind of direction. So to answer your question, which was how do the private side of sector see these kind of events? I think at the end of the day, everybody is in it when it comes to investor side of things to have some sort of a return on investment. So, but the partnerships, I think, with donor organizations and public funds are very, very important to actually start the project, and then I think. Yeah, it's investors in a way also are important to kind of show where the direction of the things should be going in a way.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess we have time, a little bit of time for questions. If anyone in the audience has, yes? Oh.
Thanks very much. Hi, I'm Tomor Kokona. I come from London, the chair of the British Albanian Culture and Arts Organization. By profession, I'm a choreographer, a fundraiser as well. And I have to thank you all for organizing this. Altin, thanks for making this happen. And Luel for really putting his vision into practice, which is unique. I've left Albania over 32 years ago. I have a few questions, so perhaps each member of the panel could give their input. The first thing that struck me is, whilst the four other panelists were talking about social investment, which is so important and so fundamental for everyone, and the angel investor was talking about a return on investment. Both parties are speaking differently, but in fact have got exactly the same aim. What would this be for the society? because in a way, organizations or festivals and non-for-profits help the society, but so businesses will support. So I just wanted an opinion for everyone, from everyone on this. One of the most important things that I've noticed, because of course I work in UK, and unfortunately we are outside of Europe, but we constantly work with organizations in the Balkans as well as Europe. So what we've noticed over the years, over the last 35 years, is that a lot of funding, of course, they are in a short term, like 2,000 euros or 2,000 pounds or 30,000. And there is not a strategy, a joint strategy, especially by the non-for-profits, to pressure the governments to do something that it has been really, really successful in the UK. Tax. If businesses would be enticed to get completed their tax deducted if they invested in film, if they invested in music, if they invested in so on and so forth in the arts, then I believe the whole industry will completely flourish. And to give you a last very simple, statistic, UK alone generated 128 billion pounds in 2019, just before COVID, in the whole creative industries. The whole of the other 26 countries of Europe barely generated, the whole of them, 111 billion. Can you see? So I think we need to really find a bridge between the private investors or angel investors, whoever, with a new mindset. Because as it is, and the final note is, again, by pressuring the governments to put business learning for all the artists is a shameful, shameful practice. The University of Arts in Tirana here, right in front of us, is the only, perhaps, I don't have the statistics, but based on me, because I'm really well known on this, is the only university that the arts management is only as a subject for 2 or 3 people, where I believe that every single artist or every child, when they do a dance class or whenever they do, to learn about business. So some food for thought. I apologize for just went a bit long, but I got loads of things. So I really appreciate this. Thank you very much.
If I may, since I do have the microphone, 2 things, very, very important. You touched upon a very important point. Actually, to go to the second point and then the first, with the Western Balkan Fund, they are basically the only ones who have understood exactly your point about business education when it comes to creative industry, and also, so we've organized together, it's a coincidence that we're here, but just to tell you that we organized together for twice, once in Kosovo and once in Albania, how to deliver training for young artists on the creative industry, on a little bit on the side of the entrepreneurial spirit, but very specifically on how you get investment, right? How do you pitch? How do you get money from investors? So that's already happening, very, very important to calm your spirits a little bit, so it has already started. So the first part, I think it's, I wish there would be some policymakers here listening to you, because obviously when you come from abroad and you say what you said about you get you get the center of attention, especially if you're coming from London or UK. Now that's not part of the EU anymore. They would be very interested to listen, and I would been very happy to hop on that train and actually discuss more about the fact that we are now trying to, lobbying is not legal in Albania, but trying to convince a couple of ministers and ministries who are open to hear that exactly what you suggested needs to happen as an instrument. I mean, Britain and the UK is one of the success stories when it comes to tax incentives, especially based on, I don't know, there's different models, corporate tax, 10% corporate, but to give an idea, more or less, like the closest option that we have, which is similar to that, is Montenegro. Montenegro has an innovation and research law, in which when you have one, let's say, creative industry venture and you need some funding, then any investor which has a certain expenditure on corporate tax then can use that 10% corporate tax instead of paying fully to the government the taxes, that they can invest it in the venture. So, and this is what needs to happen in Albania, because we need to incentivize also investors to actually invest in any venture generally, but specifically creative industry, when we have the right arguments such as the one you showed. And policymakers are very open to listen to discussions such as billion or million in the back in terms of impact and economic impact of one specific industry. So very happy to join forces with you if you want to do, and happy to have you in one of those meetings and do the very great pitch that you did. I mean, I think some people would be very happy to hear about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to add that there are some certain things in Spain, for example, with banks. They have their foundation, and then it's not that banks are nice, and that's why they are creating foundations, but it's exactly what you were saying, like through the foundation, then they get less, like, in tax incentives. So I don't know here in Albania if banks have their foundations or not, but there are other countries where this is sort of working, maybe not as good as in the UK, but I believe that that's a very good way to approach it. On the other hand, I wanted, on the other topic you mentioned about the business learning, I believe that there is a big gap, but different organizations in Europe realize that, and then we are trying to, through different initiatives, to give this informal training. For instance, in MOST, we had a training where we were teaching how to pitch a project to investors or to public fund bodies. We were giving them some tips on how to make a budget, because sometimes very easy Excel things are very far away from artists who are in a different world. But as you were saying, it's very much needed for them. And not only MOST, but there are different big initiatives regarding in the music sector, like Key Change, for example, for women mainly, but it's also giving training, professional training about how to, for example, how to invoice for other countries. So more like these practicality things. And then there are other projects that are related to early music, for example. So depending on the genre of music you are in, there are different initiatives that are trying to cover this gap, but not officially, but like in this informal training. So thank you very much for your input.
Yeah, I'll be very short. I structured your comments in three, which was relevance of the panel here, teaching, and as well government policies. So you're very right, and thank you for mentioning it, that it doesn't look like the panel is very relevant, but it is, because we have ideas, the spark, the initial spark, and then the continuity. So this is how it goes. You have the idea, you put it into practice, and then practice makes perfect. So thank you for pointing that out. The other part, the teaching part, Ravik mentioned on top of that, and I would not like to repeat myself, but just I would like to say, because you mentioned this institution that is right next to us, the stigma. When we were first trying to do what I said so far, the 26 events all around the Balkans with access to finance and PCM training, they were telling us, oh, come on, you're going to go to university, he or she just wants to play the saxophone, you're going to teach them access to finance. It's like, why not? Why not? It's like there is something in between passion, but as well, in the world that we live in, we need money as well. So there needs to be a combination of passion and money. If you love your job, that's the best way, but not necessarily is like that. On the last part, I will comment not as the Western Balkans Fund, but as Fjordi. On government policies, I'm sorry, I have to be correct on that part, but I would say you're right. It should be done like that. there should be incentives in different ways, either lower taxation or other forms of incentives on culture and art. But if you go forward, as Ravik mentioned and offered, if you go forward for that, I would kindly ask to do it regional. Try as best as you can, to involve 1 or 2 or 3 other countries from the Western Balkans as an initiator, and then spread the news more. I think it's a perfect way to do it. Thank you.
Okay, so does anyone else have anything to add? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. If you want to comment briefly.
I mean, very shortly, I fully agree with the suggestion. The example I gave before about the exhibition, I was there yesterday. The artist, for example, he did not speak English. So he had a friend supporting him who became a collaborator to do the application for us to get the grant. So this is why I mentioned that we are again going to continue having the trainings on how to write a cultural project, because it's very necessary. And I agree with Fjordi, not all cultural funds should only be for successful artists, in a sense of somebody who wants to pursue artistic career, but it can also be for someone who actually has a spark, who wants to fulfill, and then later on maybe he might continue the journey. But everybody should have the chance to share their artistic spirit when they have the chance to.
Okay.
Okay, also very briefly on comments on your intervention. About that incentive, yes, I completely agree also. I mean, we have to deal with many countries coming to WOMEX in different kind of delegations. And for example, Brazil is a very good example. I mean, they are really very strong in funding. For example, you see on CDs, or you used to see when there were CDs, Petrobras is a petrol company, or you see that on festivals, because they use a lot of tax incentive on this kind. And that works, even for a country which is maybe considered as emerging. And the other one, and that's why I was also taking note, it's exactly about training and capacity building for young professionals in the cultural field. Because something I didn't mention is the WOMEX Academy, which is something I put together some years ago, which is not an academy per se, but it's more because we were seeing people doing the effort to come to WOMEX as delegates, investing lots of money and efforts, and they didn't know where they were going. They were not prepared. They were not prepared to network, to work on international field, or they were not prepared to set up, objectives, strategies. And we thought it's such a pity. And that's why we started working with dedicated partners. Most of the time it's for 1 or 2 years to work on that, exactly. And then to have these people being at WOMEX and having practical exercise. You can now network, on international level, go for it. And we have also mentors and stuff like that. And and that's why I was also taking notes, because I think that would be something good to implement in the region. And because I think, for artists, there are 2 kinds of artists. Some who are good in management, in promotion, and that's okay. And even those who are maybe better in managing their arts, they have to know a little bit about the business. Otherwise, you see people who are very high expectations from a manager, from a label, whoever, and got disappointed and changed, and etc. So, or some who are too low expectations, don't know their rights. So even for those who don't want to manage their careers, and I think it's okay, they need to have a basic knowledge about the environment. Otherwise, it will be difficult to survive in this field.
Okay, thanks everyone. I hope we answered your question. Yes. So I think we'll close out the panel, but if anyone has any questions, you can approach us afterwards. Thank you so much for coming.